Hey, this is Robert Carter, and you're listening to the Bladeology podcast.
All right, we're going to jump into it this week like we normally do. Welcome to another episode of the Bladeology podcast. We are live in Portland, Oregon this week with the Tuch Knives crew. We've got Bill and Eric with us in person. Elijah and myself are up in Portland. Nick is at the shop on Staten Island, and we're going to have these guys on today, and we're going to talk about all the awesome stuff they're doing recently. And we're going to talk about some historical stuff, and hopefully it's going to be totally awesome. We are in two separate rooms.
Well, three because Nick's here.
Yeah, technically three separate rooms, but it's going to be great. In any case, we'll do the roundtable introductions. This is Jeremiah Burbank from PVK Vegas.
Nick Chuperin of NCC Knives.
Elijah Isham of Isham Blade Works.
Eric Tuch Knives.
And I am your host tonight, speaking to you from the grand ballroom of the Portland Ledge, William Tuch.
Very cool. All right, so let's get into it. Bill, I'm gonna start it off with you. So tell us, how did we get here? How did we get to this point in time? You've been making knives for a very long time, but how did that start?
How did it start? It started with me trying to buy a knife. My anniversary had happened, or was happening. It was a 20th wedding anniversary, and I'd gotten my wife, Eric's mom, something, and she wanted to get me something, and I didn't have anything to tell her to get me, so I just kept blowing it off, and finally one night some kids got in my car and they took a broken Discman. Do you remember back then when they had Discmans? They had this round thing you put inside a player and you had headphones.
Mm-hmm. Like a CD?
Yeah, kind of like a CD.
Like an actual CD-ROM.
Like an actual CD-ROM. Exactly. And
those round shiny things.
Yeah, it was my Now Music 16 was stolen along with the Kershaw pocket knife that my dad used to carry every day.
Well, I thought it was stolen, but I found it a while later. But anyway, it got me a new cool knife because when next time Eric's mom asked me what I wanted for our anniversary, I said I could use a new pocket knife. And she told me, well, get on the internet and find something cool. And that's like, really? You're telling someone to go buy a cool knife? So I'd been to the Mall Ninja stores and I'd seen these cool hidden mechanism knives that were being made by, I think it was Lone Wolf Valentin. And so I looked it up on the computer and I found this other one called a Valentin Chameleon that I thought was the coolest knife. And I wanted one, but I couldn't find one. So... after looking around, I finally was able to locate the company's name, this Valentin Knife Company. I was able to locate their name and their number through an organization called Oregon Knife Collectors Association, OKA. Well, I called the number, and the person answers the phone, says, hello. And I said, is this Valentin Knife Company? And he says, yep, this is Butch. And it kind of dawned on me at that moment that people actually make knives, not just, big factories and machines. Well, we got talking and kind of talked too long. We talked for, 4.5, 5 hours, and found out we had some of the same friends. He used to live in the Bay Area and had friends from my professional fishing days. And we had friends, we knew the same people. He invited me down. I wasn't doing anything but being Mr. Mom at the time after moving to Portland. And I went down next day or a couple days later after making the kids lunches to get them to school, and spent all day down there with him. He's showing me this, and I'm showing him, some other techniques from my, metal career. I was in the metal fabrication business. And then gave him $100 deposit. he gave me a receipt, and as I was leaving, I said, "So when can I expect that knife might be finished?" His reply was, "Well, when are you going to be back to work on it?" And that's how I started making knives, by going to Butch's shop and working and learning from Butch and Rainey and everyone at their shop.
So that's pretty awesome. So at that point, the Valentins were all present and accounted for at the shop, making knives full time. That must have been kind of just before or at the height of their original popularity.
Yeah, I think they'd just finished doing the SOCOM knives, and I really didn't know much about the knife community, the knife makers. I didn't really know anything except what I was seeing in that shop. I knew nothing. I was an absolute virgin to the community.
Wow. I remember the last time you said the story, you actually never ended up getting that knife.
No, I never did. And
So
the knives I made there, we sold at the Oregon Knife Collectors Show. So yeah, I came out of it with one knife, and that's my very first knife, and it's actually marked with a Valentin insignia.
And you still got it, don't you?
You still got it.
Yeah, sitting
God,
there
it's
in
so
one of the,
damn ugly.
It's not ugly. It's pretty
It
good.
was my first knife. It was an assisted opener.
Which is pretty
Yeah, wait,
crazy.
yeah, you showed us that. That was
first
actually
knife
pretty
is
cool.
an assisted. Yeah.
Yeah, big
Huh.
and clunky and ugly.
Yeah, it's
All
just it's
file
very
work,
tactful.
liners.
File. Well, yeah, I had
Yeah.
to hide the mistakes.
Oh yeah, right. The famous description of file work. Yeah, file work's fine.
Yeah, file work is there to hide things. Yeah, not always, but
That's how you hide the fucked up plunge lines, the uneven grinds.
yeah, gaps, usually gaps. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, when
you
we file work the backspacers.
Yep. File work. There's some really cool patterns in file work, and it's fun just to take a piece of paper and draw them out. You draw straight line cuts this way, draw circular or half circle cuts or crescent cuts, and put 3 pieces or do a double liner and put 5 pieces together and see what kind of vine patterns you can come up with. You can come up with some pretty crazy stuff. Geometrical
Sequence.
patterns as well.
Now, you didn't really mention around what year was this that you actually met Butch, and then when you finished your first knives.
This was it was. I'm thinking it was early 2004. It was like spring of 2004.
It was the 20th wedding anniversary, so
Yeah.
84 to 2004.
Yeah.
So now at this point, I remember like before you said you were you were working in the metals industry. What point did you go full-time knife maker? Were you doing it part-time for a couple of years, or how did that go?
Well, it went like this. I had about 4 knives ready to go, and Butch told me, "Hey, get your knives ready. We're going to the Oka show in Eugene." And I said, "Okay." And really, he says, "Yep, everything in the shop's for sale." So I cleaned them all up, got them ready to go, put them out on the table, and they sold. And I said, "Why? You've got your knives out. Rainey's got his knives here, and there's people in this room been making knives forever. Why would they buy mine?" And Butch told me to walk around the room and take a look and pick up knives and actually look closely at them. And look at the things that he taught me, things about spacing and gaps and geometry, and just being clean and things being even. And I went back to him. I said, "Okay, I understand." I said, "What do I do now?" He said, "Well, go home, clean out your garage, set up a shop, and get the hell out of mine."
Buy your own grinder.
And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I was full-time from that point on.
So as soon as you moved out of the shop, you were full-time.
Yeah, I wasn't doing anything else. I'd gone into took some computer courses to become a Cisco certified technician and a few other things, and the bottom fell out of the market at that point, and I went from looking at, hey, I come out of school and have a job for $48,000 to $52,000 starting with no experience, to guys with 26 years experience were taking jobs for $22,000 a year. So yeah, I was pretty much in a position where it was either that or wait tables,
Seemed like you picked the
Which
right
you
choice.
did too.
which I did too.
Which I came and helped bust tables at and everything.
You sure did.
I never made any tips though. What the hell? Milkshake
Yeah.
once in a while. That was about it.
That was
That's
pretty
'cause-
good
that's 'cause
tip
you-
for
that's
an
'cause your
8-year-old. What are you
dad-
talking about?
That's because your
Child
dad was
labor laws,
hiding it.
man.
Yeah, that's because
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
dad
right.
was hiding it.
Concealing that income, you know.
Okay, so now where do you go from here? You set up shop. You set up shop at your own house.
Set up
So
shop. I was
Still
I
about
was making-
2004, 2005.
Yeah, I was making switchblades, and I was on what was it, Knives and Guns forum, and they had a chat room there. And we would I'd go into the chat room. There was a guy named Tim Herman who I always used to talk to. Didn't really know anything about Tim, only he was always there, and we got along really well. We'd talk a lot, and we were the only ones in there. One day I'd posted picture of a knife that I had finished that I was trying to sell, and he told me he'd like to see it, so I sent it to him. And he checked it out and sent it back to me, and he called me and says, "That's a really nice knife, a little double action."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he says, you taught me a really valuable lesson at that point. No, I don't want to talk about that.
Why not? Come on, you got to.
No.
If it was a valuable lesson, it's probably worth talking about, right?
It's more a business thing than anything else.
Well,
But he asked me if I wanted to trade knives with him, and me being polite, said, "Yeah, sure, Tim, we can trade knives." And I didn't know who this guy was, and so I called up Butch and I said, "Hey, Butch, you ever trade knives with other knife makers?" He goes, "We talk about it a lot, but we never really have the time to do it." He goes, "Someone want to trade knives with you?" I said, "Yeah, some guy named Tim Herman." And he says, "Tim Herman wants to trade knives with you?" And I said, "Yeah, why? Who's Tim Herman?" And so he ran through his list of accolades. Oh, he's one of the best in the world. He's AKI. He's this. He's that. Blah, 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 blah. And so I learned who Tim Herman was. Well, Tim and I continued to be friends, and it seemed like, probably a few weeks after that, Tim said, "Hey, I'm going to come visit you." And I said, "Cool." And he bought a ticket, and he flew out, and he stayed with us, and he spent about 3.5 weeks at the house. And we did.
Going to get 5-gallon buckets full of voodoo donuts.
Yeah, we
with
were
Captain
getting
Crunch
buckets.
on top.
Yeah, we were buying our $5 buckets of voodoo donuts.
This is
God,
before.
that was
This
gross.
is the old times. Now one donut's $5.
Yeah.
Well, these are the donuts at the end of the night when they're the day olds or whatever, when they're just throwing them out.
They're getting rid of them.
You just go and fill
Yeah.
up and have a bucket full. Yeah, Tim loved that one. I remember that.
He also loved the steaks over at the Acropolis. So he'd always
The
say,
strip
"Hey,
club with the
let's go get a steak. Let's go." Yeah, it was always, "Let's go get a steak. Let's go get a
You
steak."
didn't go for the steak.
Steak's good though. Whatever.
It's a solid
Exactly.
steak.
The steak, it's solid. It's solid. Back then it was $5. $5 for a sirloin with a salad and a baked potato. Yeah, that was a pretty good deal.
now it's probably like a $10 steak.
I actually think
Last time I was over there, I think it was only $6.
it was they've only gone up to $6.
Is it
That's
razor?
Not
Like,
bad.
nice-
It's like
nice
it's like a
steak. We could go over
6-ounce piece of steak,
Look, to be honest, the steaks I buy cost more than that. I would not trust a cooked $6 steak with sides.
Well, okay. In any case, but the voodoo donuts thing. So Tim was hanging out with you at the shop,
Tim was
teaching
hanging
you
out
stuff.
with us, and it's funny because the first knife that we built together was a blued Damascus Sparrowhawk double action scale release knife that I was doing way back then.
Was it a full size?
It was the same size as the Sparrowhawk that I'm doing now.
Oh shit, is that right?
Yeah,
But it was a side steer mechanism. It wasn't.
it was a
the new Eclipse knife.
different mechanism.
Not top sear.
It was a side sear. It's not the new Eclipse sear. But he taught me to carve. He showed me how to carve a flute on that knife, and that's where I learned how to carve a flute.
Oh, I remember you telling me the guy came by, showed you how to make one flute, and you figured it out. That's the guy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mhm.
That's pretty much it.
And you just took it from there and kept.
Yeah, he showed me how to do it, and we worked together on it, and he helped me get through. There were 4 flutes on that knife or 5 flutes on that knife.
On each side.
No, all together.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think there were 2. Yeah, there were like 6 flutes.
One
No,
along
4
the spine.
4 flutes. Yeah, 4 flutes on that knife.
Wow.
And that's where I learned to carve, and then I took it from there. And you go from learning how to do a straight flute and get it polished and get it cleaned up to
start doing some curvy stuff.
doing curvy stuff, stacking them, putting one on top, learning how to keep your lines crisp.
And what'd you call the one that they cross over each other? You got to count the.
Oh
the
yeah,
depth
when you crisscross, I have one pattern where
Crisscross applesauce.
I do a circle.
Crisscross.
I do a round flute crossing, and then there's 2 triangular flutes on each side of that round flute. And when you crisscross them all, you end up with these 4 little diamonds. And to make those diamonds just right, you actually have to count your strokes with the sandpaper as you're finishing it.
And you're talking about like hundreds of strokes.
You were talking thousands of strokes.
Okay, well.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's all done by hand, 8,000 grit, polished, because if you hit that with a buffer, those little triangles disappear.
Yeah, they go away pretty quick.
Yeah, they're pretty fine.
Tim also got you into doing more than just switchblades, though. He was doing the lockbacks and the
Helped me
taper pin
how-
lockbacks and
helped me how
the
to
side
do-
locks. And
Yep. He sure did. It's kind of an interesting lineage because Steve Hull taught Tim Herman how to build lockbacks. Tim Herman taught Wolfgang Lorschner how to do lockbacks, and Wolfgang taught Tim how to do fluting,
Wow,
how
so
to
it's
do the
like
carving.
The whole class was there.
So I learned from Tim how to do the lockbacks that he learned from Tim Hull and taught Wolfgang, and he also taught me the carving that he had learned from Wolfgang.
So all those guys kind of came out of the same school.
It's all the same school.
Now, as far as the timeline goes, was that all happening like relatively close to each other, or was that had happened and then
That
Tim
was
was
like
teaching you years later? Like, give us an idea when that was.
I think that was like the summer of 2006 or 2000.
relative to
2005,
when
2000.
the other.
Yeah,
things were
I'm
happening.
old. I can't keep track of the dates. I should have kept a diary, but I didn't. I could probably go back on my computer and look at the dates on the photographs.
Don't worry about it, Bill. Get it next time. It's all right.
Go back to the emails.
I'm glad you're editing this.
He's not editing that.
Ah, shit.
Anytime you mention editing, it doesn't get edited.
And so if I want you to
Yeah,
edit
no,
something, I
that's-
have to say
yeah.
like fuck, and then you
No,
have
that's
to
fine.
edit that
No,
out.
it'll be in there
that'll be
too.
in there.
Ah,
It's not
fuck.
PG-13.
So you were learning this stuff, then you developed your style, and then you kept going and you pushed the limits, and you were like challenging yourself when it came to art knives, and then you're talking about lockbacks. So I mean, a lot of your art knives are in fact manual folders.
Yeah, that's the lockback.
Right.
Manual folder. Yeah, some of them, they started out as side locks. First I did side locks.
Well, what about just a liner lock or a frame lock that wasn't dual action? That's also a manual folder. Or
They're
there's
frame lock art knives.
Well, I guess you could do just Nick. I guess you can do anything as an art knife. A frame lock would be really easy because you'd only have to do half the knife.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Carve one side.
That's what I do. I actually got a
Leave that
DM
lock stuff
yesterday.
all plain and nasty and dark tie.
It's like
Unfinished.
Yeah, it's like frame lock Alex is only half a knife, and then you look at the poor guys who do ballad songs. They're building 2 knives. You know.
You gotta do everything twice.
Yep.
Yeah, but I did a pre-order the other day, and the guy DMs me. He's like, "Hey, are the pivot collar options and the milling pattern options, are they on one side or both sides?" I'm like, "Of course, both sides. One side's for quitters." I never understood when guys just machine the mill one pattern or carve one side. Even if it's a frame lock, you can still carve the other side.
Push
Shit,
it to the
he's
limit,
killing
man.
my game on this switchblade I'm building right now.
Did you carve only one side, Bill?
No, I actually did carve 2, but the original plan was not to carve the back side.
No, I got that DM from the guy, and I'm like, no, of course, one side's for quitters. I'm like, I've never seen the one-sided pivot collar. And he sent me a photo of a knife, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
What? I tell you what, when you're machining and you're doing two sides, that's not so bad. But when you're doing hand carving, the first side you do is simple, man. It's so easy, it flows, everything's so beautiful. And then you got to turn it over and you got to do the other side and make it match.
You got to match it up.
That's the hard side.
Yeah.
And then you got to come back and you got to do the other side again because it isn't going to match. So you got to go back and forth a few times to get everything
You
evened
got to
up.
bring them up to the same level, and then they still don't really match, but they have to match to the eye.
Yeah, they have to really match to when you're selling a knife for $10,000.
You better make damn sure they match.
That's made out of 440C and 416 stainless steel.
Right, so that's
that work
the
better
other thing
be
is
dead nuts on.
Yeah.
All the value is time at that
right,
point.
exactly. So I mean, there's a delineation there of these are not art knives are not like dressed Damascus, Damascus.
No,
These are
no,
we're
that's
talking
just
about
changed
steel
out
that's
material.
been like beautified, basically.
It's not the material; it's the work.
It's
Put
the
into it.
handwork. It's
It's not even titanium, Bill. Come on.
it's not even titanium. No, actually, 416 in bar form is a hell of a lot harder to get than titanium.
Nowadays, probably right.
But
Oh, you've got a
No, art
lifetime
knives-
supply stashed.
yeah, I did. I found a good score on that stuff.
Wait, what are you using the bar stock for, though? Oh, like flat bar.
For
never
the
mind.
scales,
I'm thinking round. No, I was thinking round bar.
Yeah. I tell you what, with the art knives, it's you really chase a vision. You chase something in your mind's eye, and you lose track of time. And you don't realize that you just put 400 hours into a piece that you're never going to be able to get paid for.
It's a
You're never-
passion project.
Yeah,
for sure.
when you look at the end of the year and you go, shit, I've only built 5 knives this year, and you were working every single day.
All that matters is if you love what you do.
No, all that matters is that your bills are paid.
And you can cover your bills.
Maybe a
That
bit
kind of
above.
helps a little bit.
So
I've always paid rent for my shop. I only worked out of the house for a very short time.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill, when you're saying 400 hours, now that's an
producing
outstanding
cash flow.
piece, or that's like a regular, like where does that fall on a line? Like, what's a standard art knife for you at that time? I mean, is 400 hours regular, or is
No,
that
400 was a lot. No,
Okay. All right.
A lot of the art knives would have about 180 to 220 hours in them. The big pieces, the special pieces, you could go up over 400 hours very easily. Like what you're talking about with the crisscross patterns. They're so difficult. They're so time consuming. Everything has to be done so cautiously. There's so much thinking time involved because every time you put that file to the metal, you have to be just right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a confidence thing, man. You might walk into the shop one day and you're looking at your work and you've got your tools in your hand and you just can't touch your work because you're afraid you're going to screw it up because you don't
You
have
already
the
have 200 hours in it.
and
never
it's
thought
like
about it like
anything
that.
you
That's
do
like-
right now is a new design and you don't have time. you
Really
don't have
easy to
enough-
throw away 2 weeks of labor when you're doing handmade work like this.
Bill, I know exactly what you're talking about. Right now, I'm working on a knife where I made the titanium Damascus and I made the stainless Damascus, and I don't even want to work on it. It just lying there. I'm like, if I fuck up anything, it's not like it's just the titanium
Wait a second.
knife.
Wait a
I have
second.
all that
You're
time.
making titanium Damascus.
Well, yeah, I made a couple billets of both, but there's a folder I'm working on that has both of my materials.
Wait. No. Let's get back to that. And you haven't sent me any?
I still need to make my own knife with it.
Hey! I don't care.
hey.
I come first.
No excuses. Pass it
No
over.
excuses. Damn it.
No, but I know exactly because I'm like, if I fuck that up, usually I could just pull off another piece of titanium.
I'm getting on my phone right now. I'm PayPaling you some postage. Okay.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just the postage. Just the postage.
So, yeah.
I expected
I don't
that
want
bill
any
will be in the mail as soon as
Now
possible.
there's no excuse. You can't say
We'll
you
send
broke
your
to
shoes
afford the
back
stamp.
too, Nick. I think we got a pair of your Nikes here.
Yeah,
still.
and I'll give you your
No,
Nikes.
those are garbage. That was when they got soaked for fishing. But besides the point, yeah, I keep looking at that knife. I'm like, I don't even want to grind it because if I fuck that up out of nervousness, I'm be like, well, there goes like a week in materials, not even the knife.
Dude, send it to me. I'll grind it for you.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't have that connection to it. I won't be nervous at all.
Exactly.
I'll put on a 20 grit belt and I'll just go
Knock
for
it
it,
out.
man.
I got you. Next time you got to do that crisscross applesauce. I got you. I got a Dremel. It'll be fine.
So during the art knife, during your art knife sort of endeavor, really, the materials were 416 and what was the blade steel?
440C.
440C.
For the most part, you use
Good
stainless
old-fashioned-
Damascus,
good
carbon
old-fashioned-
Damascus sometimes, and
Yeah,
I did some
I did
inlay
use
with
Damascus
pearl and
inlay with different materials. Yeah.
pearl and lapis
And-
and
but
whatever
then-
other natural material.
Yeah, we were going over the stones today. I mean, we're talking about like steel for the most part, steel and natural materials. So no, you would never put carbon fiber in an art knife, for instance, or would you?
You take a look at a page full of pictures of art knives, and you see a lot of different uses of material.
All kinds of material, like not like
You see,
unnatural stuff. Like
you
man-made?
see all sorts. You see gold, you see pearl, you see all different.
Using composite materials doesn't declassify a knife as an art knife.
As an art knife, but they use different materials and they layer materials and they do this, that, the other. But my big thing was, what can you do with a black and white knife? If you take a piece of plain stainless steel, 440C polishes, it cleans up. It's just very clean material. It's a good cutting material. It's not one of the new super steels, but it's about the same as D2 with a couple percent more of chromium.
440C.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's always been a good cutter.
I mean,
Polish as well.
The reason
Polish
it
as
gets a
well,
bad
and it's
rap
clean.
is because people don't have it. Well,
It's all in the heat treat.
yeah, it's all nobody knows how to heat treat it properly. Like,
It's all in the heat treat. If you heat treat and temper something
Custom
properly, it's
makers
going to
do.
do very well. But when you take something like 154 and you put a fine finish on it, you're looking at it going, what are those marks? And you realize that you're looking at the grain structure of the metal and it's just filthy. That takes away from the piece. So I went with material that I considered the cleanest. And if it weren't 4040C, today it would be RWL.
Yep, RWL seems to have replaced it in a way. Like I see a lot of, like you see a lot of mirror polish stuff in the RWL.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not.
Absolutely.
There's many steels equivalent to 440. Start going 154 CM, RWL. It's the way it's made for the grain structure, what really affects the mirror polish finish that he's talking about.
You take 154 CM, and you polish and you put a really fine satin finish, say 1200 satin finish on it. You're going to see the grain. It's going to look like Damascus.
You're going to see through it.
But
You
won't
see right through
it.
the finish, and you see the metal.
Then you take something like CPM 154, which is the same composition, but it's a
And
different process.
it's the same thing.
Really, in at those
It
levels?
is. Yeah, 154 is 154.
Because like
I've never seen
I've broken them up, and like I could see the difference in the grain structure.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to use 154, if you can find the old ATS, that would be the better material to use. They're
Yeah,
You're talking
pretty
about
heavy.
for carving or just in general? It's a better.
Just
No, he's talking
general
about polishing.
cleanliness. I mean, 154 and ATS were very similar performing materials. The Hitachi ATS, but the ATS had a tighter grain structure and was cleaner when you finished it.
Yeah,
Seems like 420 mirrors up like real good. It looks like a damn mirror when you finish with it.
Yeah, especially when you do it by hand. You do it. Take it to an 8,000.
Look at Gil Hibbons' pieces. I mean, there you go.
Well, 420 doesn't have that many carbides in it. In the
420?
steel. Yeah, no, not as much as a lot of other steels. There's obviously carbides in it. From my understanding, the biggest grain in the steel is the carbides, and that's what you're seeing on these rougher steels. Like for example,
it's carbides, it's vanadium, there's
extra shit.
lots of stuff that's in these materials, and the super steels are even worse. You know, to get a proper polish on what M390 on
What kind of goes against like what the purpose of that
an
steel would be?
S30B, S35. It's very
Because
difficult.
it's a hard cutting steel, so it's not really meant to be mirror polished.
Oh, like the Crucible and Carpenter steels are all right. I don't think that anybody intended those to be.
It's like a hard,
Artfully polished.
hard use steel.
Yeah, that's a tactical knife. I think that's probably more of a tactical knife steel. But also, to just go back for a second, the blades you are doing, people really should take time to look up Bill's work at that time that we're talking about. But you're talking about like a mirror polished like flute or fuller with like satin finish. I mean, you combine different finishes, which is why it's so important that the grain structure in the steel be correct.
Oh yeah, some of my knives had 8, 9, 10 different finishes on them, and they weren't really deceptible to to someone just looking at it. They couldn't just say, "Oh man, look at all those finishes." But what they would do is they would combine to create a feel, a silkiness, or a roughness, or some sort of tactile experience for the eyes and for the hands. That's where the stippling came from. The stippling came from, and there were different grades of stippling. You could do it very deeply. You could do it just as a little light frosting, and it was there for like using a paintbrush to create texture, to create light.
And that's on the blade and the handle, because like the chanterelle
blade
piece
and
we
the
were
handle.
looking at, it was gorgeous. So there's so many finishes on when the knife is open in the locked position, the blade flowing into the handle. It's just steel. It's really far out. Like it's nuts. Everyone should definitely go take a look at that.
Oh yeah,
that one ended up on the cover of the Outstanding Blades Chinese magazine and brought us over to Beijing for the show a couple years.
Yeah. One thing I've always appreciated about those old school art knives is like it's just steel. It's
Did you
like
just call me old?
I'm talking
Yes.
about stuff that's
Dude, he
existed
just called me
before
old.
you-
Old.
Old
I don't know
school.
that I can do this
Old school.
podcast
Old
thing if I'm
school.
going to get
Old school.
insulted.
He's
No,
vintage. He
Vintage.
he's vintage, like fine art. You get better with age, Bill. You get better with
There you
age.
go.
Fine wine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just a little
Don't
spoiled.
get me a glass of wine. That sounds good.
A lot of the art knives are like anti-material. It seems like a lot of people nowadays are like really focused on material. Oh, it's Timascus and Westy and Sanwai and all bullshit, like whatever. But those are like way more beautiful, and there's nothing there but just steel. It's the work that's showcased and not necessarily material, and that's what I like about it, is the design. For me, it's like one thing that stands out.
Well, excuse me, guys. If you take all the knives that are being made right now, take away the Timascus, take away the Damascus, take away the Damacor, take away all of these materials,
And what do you see? It's hiding everything.
and make them out of plain titanium, and put a finish on that, nice finish on that titanium. What do you have? Is there any artistry to it? Is there any shape? Is there any feel? In some cases they're beautiful just as they are.
Absolutely.
And then when you start stacking materials on, all you're doing is creating a safe queen rather than something you'd carry in your pocket.
Yeah, you're masking the the form. It seems like you're drawing the attention away from the knife and more so towards the material.
Yeah,
What's that
Damascus hides good grinds anyway.
Yeah, it does.
It's like it doesn't.
true
Can't tell the
story.
difference.
Damascus is great for the guy who can't grind.
What's that meme that's been going around lately? The Van Mullen posted.
Uh,
Not carrying your knife to
To preserve
maintain
its
to preserve its resale value is like not banging your girlfriend to keep her tight for the next guy.
Yes.
Yep.
nicely done, Jeff. Shout out. Very
Shout out to
good.
Jeff Vandermeulen, the wise sage, with his wiser advice.
So going
Right,
back to something that Eric said about that particular knife. So I mean, your art knife work at the time was well received and noticed. I mean, you're saying so you were on a magazine cover and you were invited to another country.
Oh,
I was
in Milan. Invited into the Italian Knife Makers Guild. Been to Beijing. Had a lot of invitations that I just couldn't afford to, take people up on. But if you want to go back to that chanterelle knife, that was a knife that Eric presented that design, and then after some tweaking, that knife came to be. That was originally Eric's design on that knife. Looked a little bit
Yeah, I
different.
mean,
but
that was
it's
towards
still
the end
same
of
basic knife.
our time doing art knives, really. That was right before we started transitioning into doing more liner locks and flippers and doing more of the tactical stuff, and then before we started getting back into the switchblades more.
Well, we got to backstep a little bit here. We're jumping a little bit too far. So, Eric, when did you join along with Bill?
I made my first knife for Blade Show 2014.
Oh, this is
Bullshit. It was back in 4th grade when you did your science fair project, and you kidnapped my anodizing unit.
Yeah, I did the anodizing experiment for my
Science
7th grade science fair project.
that's
Well,
ground his coupons. He did it all.
I spent a little bit of time in the shop growing up, just like any kid would with their dad, but beyond just helping out with little bandsaw cutting or profiling or finish work, which generally was redone anyways, I didn't have that much interest in it. I was doing sports and just in school, and I was a teenager and didn't really care that much about it. My brother was actually into it way before I was. He was even one of the reasons why you continued doing it, if I'm not mistaken, right, Dad?
Yeah, Paul was all into swords and the
he was
Japanese
making his wooden swords and wooden training knives for when we were doing martial arts, and
he was selling them too. He was doing well with those.
Yeah, he was. He was selling them for what, $15 a piece?
Yeah, he was making wooden knives for practice knives.
No, but yeah, the whole knife making, it never really was presented as a feasible option for me. My parents always pushed me towards, you're going to college and you're gonna get have a practical career and everything's gonna go like that. But a couple years into school, I was kind of, I needed some time to reevaluate things, and I ended up back in Portland.
Wait, so where were you?
Idiot. Idiot.
And I may or may not be kicking myself for my decisions, but I'm enjoying the journey, and I've learned some skills and had some good times with my dad.
So when were you full-time in the shop?
Full-time.
Like you're saying you made one for 2014 Blade
For
shop?
2014, so that's when I started jumping into it. It was just a little art knife. All my dad was doing was lockbacks at the time with carving, so that's what I learned first. It didn't work properly. The geometry was off, so I never really sold it, but it was a good start and had nice carving, and I got a good response from it.
So just to be clear, your first knife was an art knife.
Was an art knife.
Okay. just to be totally clear, you jumped in and were like, I got this.
Let's just do the hardest fucking thing that we can possibly do. Yeah. So that had me banging my head against the wall for a while. And, going into a world-class shop with this guy with standards of fit and finish that are beyond what I could even really see, developing the eye of actually being able to see what level of quality was required was one of the biggest things.
God damn it.
Yeah, now I'm the one telling him, hey, you better fix that up. That's not quite right. So yeah, but my initial jump into the shop actually came from when my dad was he was T-boned. He was in a car accident, ended up with some nerve damage, and was having a hard time, getting work done, and that I'm just wanted to help really. And that was the initial getting into the shop, and for the next couple of years I learned everything: art knives, all the carving, the inlay, the gold dots, or whatever else you can possibly think of. I was a part of every build, and start to finish, I was able to develop these skills over a couple of years, and then we started getting into. I had found a couple boxes with some old liner lock parts that had never been finished, some old Sparrow Hawks, and we started doing these liner locks for I think it was my 3rd year going back to Blade.
Wait, so they weren't switchblades?
Were not switchblades. Yeah, we just started doing the switch. I mean, the scale release ones that we had 2 years ago. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the actual timeline of things.
It's been a journey. I started out making. My first knife was an assisted opener. My second knife was an assisted opener. My third knife was a push button dual action. My fourth and fifth knives were scale release dual actions, and I went from there. And then when I met Tim Herman, I was really where we are now. I was getting ready to produce the Sparrowhawk with the old mechanism on a semi-custom, semi-production basis. That type of knife was a lot less money back then. Back then, if I sold that knife for $500-600, that was a home run. now
we're just talking about the later on timeline
and
now.
Then, and then it was into art knives, side locks, lockbacks, and then we just started transitioning back into doing just flickers and flippers.
As far as the point of after I got into the shop, though, I spent a couple years doing the art knives. Then I had a year of doing basic thumb stud liner locks. We were doing just Sparrowhawks. That's when we first started getting into Instagram and discovering the knife community of the tactical market. That was just a whole different world from the art knife community that we were a part of. And then that it became clear that flippers were the thing that everybody wanted, so we came out with a flipper model. We made that for a year or two, and by the time we got to the end of that, the new mechanism had been developed, so we had started making this new scale release mechanism.
Which is crazy to think about, because actually, like when you hear people in the knife industry, like we talk about this, when you hear people say, oh, the market or trends, I mean, often we're not talking about things that are completely out of the spectrum. We're talking about these guys making art knives in 2014, 2015. That's not that long ago. Like, the market makes incredible shifts on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
So pretending to know what's going to happen is tricky, but in general, it sounds like what you guys are doing, a lot of it is cyclical. Like, starting from switchblades, going to manuals and flippers, and then coming back to switchblades. I mean, that's,
out of necessity, really.
Right, exactly. Certainly the demand for the autos, I've seen an increasement, and obviously you guys have seen.
There's always been a market for the autos. It's kind of been an outlaw thing. Anyone who's been making switchblades for a while is definitely an outlaw. It's frowned upon. It has a certain stigma attached to it, but the market there is pretty much the same and stays the same. We are getting some new members to that world, but switchblade collectors are switchblade collectors. They aren't buying flippers.
Yeah. So what was the impetus to get back into switchblades? What was the thing that did it? You guys were like, we'll do a flipper, and then was there somebody requesting it?
There was a challenge. Yeah. Go for it.
Oh, geez. Jeff Druitt, client, he wanted me to make a Sparrowhawk profile in a 3 5/8 inch blade as a double action. Wanted it with some mammoth scales. Handed me a piece borrowed Damascus for bolsters and blade, and I looked at him and said, "Really?" And he was willing to invest in the time that it would take to build. And I'm looking at it going, I can do this. I've got a mechanism that'll work for that. And I said, "Okay, Jeff, I'll do it." And then I got home and I started looking at things and drawing things on the computer, going, "Shit, I don't have a mechanism that'll work."
So at that point you were using the original sort of.
I was going to use my original. Yeah, my original. It's kind of a modification of Butch and Matt Diskin's mechanism.
So with the sheet metal looking thing.
Yep. Yeah, with a bent over sear coming in from the side of the knife, and it wouldn't work in this knife. There wasn't enough room for everything. So instead of calling up Jeff and saying, "Hey Jeff, man, I know I said I would do this, but I just can't do it," I started thinking, and I came up with something. I saw something one day on a construction site.
Really? What'd you see?
And I saw the way they were. I saw a crane working. Believe it or not, and I just saw something about it. Said, if that were this big, that would work. And
Wow,
I started drawing and I started designing. I started playing and broke out the files and made little tiny parts. And you know, it was a long time. It was I was 4 months on one knife to develop this mechanism, and then it's taken months after that to perfect it.
So where's that prototype today?
That prototype today?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the original prototype was given to Eric 2 years ago for his birthday.
Wow.
And he's
Legit,
actually
dude.
sitting over here on the desk.
Not a bad score. Not a bad score.
Huh.
Yeah,
Still-
it's not even
I still
sharpened.
need to
hidden
finish
hardware.
it off. Yeah, I want to regrind it a little bit
It wasn't
and clean it
supposed
up.
to be hidden hardware. The original knife
Maybe
was not
put some
supposed to be
flutes
hidden,
on the bolsters.
but I figured I could, so I did.
Always a fan of hidden hardware.
Hidden hardware, yeah. But anyone who will do a hidden hardware
Dual
action
outside.
switchblade is an idiot. Yes,
So
Dan,
this whole time that
I'm talking about you too. Yeah.
this whole time I've been in the shop, and we've gone from building one thing to the next, and it seemed like we've always kind of had the same issue if we just kept putting in too much time. And so that's what has kind of led to this new development, this new line of producing these Sparrowhawks. If you're not familiar, we're making something more than just one of a kind at this point, and venturing into a slightly higher production company or business plan, whatever you want to call it.
The only requirement I had was we had to have our hands on each piece, and they have to be of our quality. So when we'll have parts that are manufactured for us locally and roughed out, and then we'll bring them into the shop, and we finish the parts here in the shop, put it all together and match it and do all the handwork here. So really what we've done, we figured out a way just to cut out excess labor. The labor that you could train someone else to do or that a machine can do, but there's still certain aspects to a handmade knife that you cannot get a machine to do. And that's what we do. And so every one of these has hand finishes. Every single one of these has been hand fit and and in the interior screws, the exterior screws are all polished heads. Whether it's inside or out, the interior of the knife, the actuator, that's all cleaned up. Everything is anodized. We want to build these knives like watches. And be as proud as what's inside the knife as what's on the outside of the knife. So, that's really what it's all about to us, is being able to bring one of these knives to people for less money with the same quality as our full-on customs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we out there.
That's where we've been for the last years, is prototyping this new model, getting the process down for the last 6 months. They're going from the first batch to the second batch. The first 30 knives that we produced, it took us 5 months to produce. The next 30 knives or so, it took closer to 5 weeks. It was less than 2 months.
So streamlining the process.
So we're streamlining the process. We're outsourcing a lot of the hand mill work that we've been doing. A lot of the heat treating that we've always done in-house. We're getting outsourced the surface grinding. Just all the little things that add up time that makes it impossible for us to offer a knife for the price range where we're at this point.
We don't have machining centers in here. We have you're sitting in the shop right now, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Describe the type of equipment you see in there.
That's a good point to back up this so we're in the shop. There's zero automation. This looks probably more like a micro machining shop. There's engraving tools, small drill presses, the Burrow Master thing, which there's no way I can possibly describe what that looks like.
It's a Birdmaster. It's the original CNC. It's a rotary drill press, so it has multiple heads that spin around when you want to.
There's like a Bridgeport thing.
Yeah, old Bridgeport mill.
It's not a
shitty
Bridgeport,
bandsaw.
guys. It's a copy of It's a copy of a Chinese mill.
It's not a Bridgeport.
All right.
It's not a.
Well, I was trying to give us a little bit of a steeze there,
But I mean, no. There's
guys, we're on the second floor of a building that was built in the 50s. If we put a Bridgeport up here, it would be downstairs.
Anyway, no, so
and not by choice.
You never have, and you don't now have automated machines in the shop. There's no Haas in here.
No, the only computer out there is the temperature control unit on the side of the kiln.
Right.
Now,
Exactly.
you have any interest in getting CNC in the shop?
No, I have no interest whatsoever.
Well,
we have outsourced certain parts to CNC at this point.
Yeah.
To take on that on our own, it's going to be anything like that. It's going to be way far down the road. It's nothing that we can even think about at this point. It's a completely different world to us from the handmade world, you know.
Yeah, what we're hoping for is, as we've automated some of the production on some of the parts for this project, is Eric's brother Paul is, as he gets more and more involved in the business, that he's very talented with CAD. He's very talented with picking up a manual and learning. He's expressed an interest in going into the industrial arts program at the local college to learn CNC machining and programming. And then at that point, I told him if that's what he wanted to do and he had the skills, at that point we would buy and tool up a machine.
Start in that direction, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also a lot of,
But this is, we got to remember, this is a family business. We don't employ anybody.
We're not a factory. This is
myself.
A couple people coming into work every day.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, I feel you. Like when last time I saw you, I told you when I get back, my father's been on full time, and it's been 3 months of my dad being on full time, and it changed the entire dynamic of the shop here.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a full-time employee now, so.
Well, no,
that's right. He's got a full-time employee.
Yeah.
Is that what you're calling Rob now?
No, Rob is I'm
gonna tell him you said that. Rob Carter works for Nick. That's awesome.
No, I got the same situation how you and Eric have. My dad's been here full time for 3 months now. It's I'd say it's more of a pain in the ass and working with your family than actually an employee, but we're getting it done.
The difference is
I don't recommend it.
The difference is with an employee, I could tell I'm willing to open my mouth and tell an employee something that I wouldn't be willing to tell my son. I'm more willing to let my son and try something that he wants to try, even though I know it's going to fail. I'm going to let him do that because I know it's going to teach him for the future.
You got to make your own mistakes.
You got to make your own mistakes.
This is something I've said in the past, is that having you as a mentor, it's been amazing to have this encyclopedia of knowledge to be able to teach me one thing to the next thing to the next thing. But at the same time, I've had to make my own mistakes. I have my own drawer full of scrap that.
Oh God, does he ever?
Oh, it's not that bad, but but yeah, that's what knife making is. That's what life is. It's making mistakes and it's learning. And the better you can make your relationship with the failure or perceived failure, then the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. Also, I mean, just to finish up the automation thing, like
you have to learn how to handle failures, because I tell you what, man, you screw something up that you know you shouldn't have screwed up. And I tell you what, it's like getting punched in the stomach. All the air disappears from the room. You can't breathe. It's like I just screwed 2 weeks worth of work, on and on and on. But what happens is, if you learn from your mistakes and you're allowed to make these, to fail and to recoup, you learn that what that means is you don't just pull your hair out and throw the thing away and start over. You take a step back and you say, okay, this is what happened. What can we do from here to make it right? And if you really look at it that way, you can find a solution in just about all situations where you aren't making mistakes. You may make a new design, but you aren't going to make a mistake.
Yeah. And
you just figure it out.
Yeah. See,
recognizable knife makers. There are no mistakes. There's just new designs.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing I'm struggling with now, since my dad, I delegated a lot of things that I don't ever, I've got the process down on a lot of certain things that I've delegated to my father doing now, and he's got.
I need to talk to your father. I should talk to you.
Well, he's gotten that mentality lately.
I'd love to hear that conversation.
Yeah, so
he's gotten that podcast. Get him in here.
He's gotten that mentality now where he's a professional. He's been doing this for 3 months, and he forgets that the knives he finishes, I did all the work on prior, and he doesn't realize what that entails. What, you don't hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for a few minutes.
No, you're good.
I mean,
man.
like,
no, so
The
he doesn't
other
realize what
thing
that work
is-
entails.
right, and like Nick is saying, like finish work is, it's not going to be 90% of the knife, but finish work and action are going to be things where years and years and years of expertise come
Well,
into play. So
that's-
automating the internals almost is just like you're just making it easier for things people aren't going to see anyway. And what you expertise in is things that people do see: the tactical feel of the knife, how it sits in your hand, how it appears to the eye. I mean, those are some of the
Yeah.
crucial things that you'll never be able to automate ever. There will never be a machine that will be able to make a knife beautiful or operate.
And that's kind of our point there. We don't look at it as someone's never going to see it. We look at it as, hey, someone's going to get curious and take this thing apart.
Mhm.
Right.
What are they going to find? Man, we don't want them to find a piece of. We don't want them to find unfinished work inside the knife.
They're going to be just as surprised when they open.
I want them to open that
finished.
thing up and go, God, look at that!
Sure.
They polished it.
Mhm.
It doesn't. No one has ever. If someone buys that knife, they can use it for 20 years and pass it on to their kids or their grandkids, and they can use it and pass it on, and no one's ever opened the knife. But we know what's inside that knife. If someone ever does open it,
It's just
they're
like
going to
watch.
see our work, and our work is important to us.
Yeah, it's just
Hey,
like
we're
a
not
watch.
gold plating the inside screws
No,
like
we are
Stan
not.
does.
No, we aren't.
quick
but
quick touch on the lathe, make it nice and shiny. That's good enough.
I mean,
We're proud of
Hold
our
on.
work, and we want we want to do the best job we can for people.
Sure.
Honestly, gold plating is easier than just putting them on a lathe and polishing them. I
you still gotta finish them and everything, though.
Yeah, gold plating is kind of simple.
Well, no, yeah, I switched to gold plate. All my I have one interior screw with the clip, but like I just literally take them to the Jews down the block and they gold plate 100 screws for me. It's pretty easy compared to polishing them.
It's that easy,
my-
folks. So if you hear Nick
That
trying to
is-
upsell you
my
on it,
people
don't
are
listen
ripping
to
me
him.
off. Yeah, that's right.
No
Oh, yeah,
big
that'll be
deal.
that'll be an upcharge for that.
No, I'm just saying, like putting them on the
I'm
lathe.
gonna let
and
them know
polishing-
they're gonna raise the prices now.
No, I'm saying putting them on the lathe and polishing them is more work than the gold plated screw. Literally, the Jews down the block do that. I'm Jewish, so I can say that. Just
Sure.
There are quite a few Jewish knife makers.
yeah, one's on this podcast. I'm a Russian
Yeah.
Jew.
Yeah, you've got actually the Jews are outnumbering the Gentiles on this podcast here.
Oh,
Yeah, you guys Jews
okay.
too. I just forgot.
Wow.
I'm like a half blood, so
we're all part of the we're all part of the tribe.
at this point.
All right.
We're all part of the
No,
tribe.
Humanity will prevail. Okay.
Uh,
So the dual action, you had a challenge, you met that challenge, you created something, you created another thing, then you streamlined the thing. Now you're working on streamlining that thing.
and now we're looking at new models.
How different now is the Sparrowhawk than what it originated as? Like
Interior or exterior?
both. Touch on
Well,
both.
Well, I tell you what, when I was originally building the Sparrowhawks, it was pretty early in my career, and where I thought the work was really fantastic, and it to me and to a lot of people it was. But I can tell you one thing: when I look at the pieces that I did back then, they were fairly rough.
I think every maker probably.
But every maker probably thinks. But it's a progression of learning. It's a progression of finish work and learning how to do these things, and keep lines clean and keep ricassos flat with crisp grind lines, and it's a learning process. I've got a lot of years. So
Yeah, between the two of us, 20 plus years now.
yeah. That's very true.
So this
this is the shape of the knife is very, very close. The blade shape has changed just slightly. The action has changed completely. The way the spring is held in, the way you can remove the spring, the way the knife opens and closes, the geometry has changed just a little bit, but not a whole lot. The second run, when we found those parts for the original Sparrowhawk autos, and I believe you have a couple in stock there, Jeremiah. those are really cool to build. Those are really
those
cool
are hidden
to
hardware
build.
too. Those are amazing. Those look great.
Yep, and those are really cool to build. Those knives. So, but
he's
the
talking
new
about the smaller
mechanism
ones.
the new mechanism is what
Full
changes
size
the knife.
clips.
It's really on the inside of the knife that's changed most.
Right.
And the center sear, the Eclipse sear, patent pending, is it really changes it. I mean, we can make them fire so hard now, without the deformation, without
Worrying about
things
dry firing from a drop.
things dry firing, without things deforming, without the sears bending or breaking. It's just a completely different animal.
It's been simplified completely too.
It's completely been simplified. The new sear method is something that other switchblade makers look at and they go, "Damn, it's so simple. Why didn't I think of that?"
Well, and as a note for that, just to we've had this conversation many times, but it is a little tricky for people who aren't aware of the mechanics of these knives. But if we can go into just a little bit of the anatomy of these dual action switchblades, because most people have either very rarely set hands on anything dual action, never mind something as awesome as this. So, but Bill, can you give me an idea of what a sear is? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, we throw this word around, but what's the mechanical?
The most basic level.
Yeah, just basically, what does it do? What are we saying?
The sear will capture the spring.
Okay.
And hold the spring back, so it holds the inertia that will then be tripped by some sort of mechanism. In our case, we call it the actuator. The actuator, which is set in motion by the movement of the scale. By moving the scale, you move the actuator, which hits the drive pin on the sear, which allows the spring to come loose and fire.
Okay.
As that spring fires, it hits the bottom of the blade and swings the blade out into place.
Cool.
The anatomy is there. Dual action means the knife works with or without that action. You can actually open it
without
with
the spring. You can remove the spring completely, and it will function as a regular knife completely.
And that's a little bit different from this knife to any other scale release knife. Is we don't depend on that spring to hold the blade in place for the detent, to hold the blade in place in the closed position. The spring is completely tucked up and away, held back by the sear. So the blade is actually stopping on the full back spacer. And even without the spring, the knife will function perfectly as a normal knife.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the main difference between this knife and any other scale release dual actions out there.
Now, from my understanding or memory of what you said, the dual actions really developed because of legality back in the day, because you couldn't really carry an automatic. Is that correct, or am I remembering false information?
Well, there's gadget factor involved. First of all, it's fun to have a switchblade, but it's intimidating as hell to have a switchblade to pull out at work. People don't want to see you push a button and fire a blade out. It's kind of intimidating to people because switchblades have this stigma attached to them. What this does, it hides the fact that it actually is a switchblade. It just gives you an option for being able to fire the knife open without having to get your thumb on the thumb stud, without having to even turn the blade around, because this knife here can be fired in a reverse position, to where you can hold the handle and have the blade come out, down along your arm rather than out in front of your thumb.
Would that be like a reverse Spidey flick?
Yeah, like ice pick.
A reverse Spidey pick. I don't know. I'm too old to know this stuff.
No,
where's Tom Mayo? I need an old guy in my corner. Damn.
The Amsterdam.
We'll get him on the podcast. Don't worry about it.
That's pretty much my favorite way to open it. It's actually pull it out the pocket and just reverse actuate it, I guess.
Yeah.
Put the blade down.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
the most badass way, and then it just ends up in your hand, fucking
Yeah,
reverse style.
Really, as you pull it out, you just hit that button. It's probably the quickest way to actuate it. With your
Yeah.
thumb.
You know, they're fun as hell to play with too.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
switchblades are
like
the best.
I've stated before, people who have to drive to work and they sit in traffic, this knife is guaranteed to shorten your commute.
I mean, that's actually okay. That leads us into a little bit of a good train of thought here, as far as springy knives or knives with springs come into play. I think there's an underestimated fidget factor in these knives. I don't think like I certainly have lots of experience answering emails and many other things when it comes to like knife firing. But Bill, like people fire these knives how many times? Thousands and thousands and thousands of times.
Thousands of times.
Like people are like, oh, it's a switchblade. You know, or you can fire a manual knife. You can just sit there and fire it. But like, there really is something about a switchblade that you can just sit at a desk or sit at wherever. You
It's
can
a
fire
great
it until it like it explodes. In which case,
Oh.
you know, most of the time these things don't even. I mean, it's nothing. Like they just keep firing forever. What was your total count? I know earlier you posted an Instagram video.
on the prototype knife.
Yeah, how many fires you have on that thing?
I had close to 15,000 is what I estimated.
Wow. Okay.
I fired that thing every day from the moment I woke up to the time I went to sleep. I was driving. I was, you know, even when I had my hands on something else I was working on, I'd still reach over and open and close it.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that really makes this knife durable, I believe, is number one, it's not put together with bearings. It's a washer knife. It uses a hardened pivot and a hardened bushing. You cannot squeeze the knife too tight to pinch the blade. It just keeps going and going and going. I mean, eventually there are moving pieces and something will wear out. But you know what? We can replace those pieces. You know, there's nothing on that knife that can't be replaced. The original prototype, I took 7,000 off, 7,000ths of an inch off of each washer. That's how many times I fired it.
7,000.
Yeah, they started at 15 and
They
ended
started
up at
at
like 8 or something.
Yeah, I ended up with
All
8
right.
thou on each side
Okay.
of that blade.
Wow.
You know, so that was a lot of firing. That's, you know.
And it's still centered too.
But you know what? I've sold these things to people who are doing the same thing. And you know what? They aren't saying, hey, the knife's getting loose, the knife's doing this, the knife's doing that. They're saying, hey, I want to get another one.
So I mean, right, and that's you know another awesome point. So I mean, these knives, which are mechanical nightmares, but also at the same time Rolex built, these knives run on washers.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, these knives run on washers, not bearings. I mean, you kind of briefed over that, but I mean, as a mechanical advantage to bearing, bushings actually offer a lot. Like quite a bit.
Yeah, you have a bearing. If you're using a 16th inch bearing that's going around out in a track, your knives are riding on a pinpoint.
It's a difference of surface area.
Slow down the mech.
Yeah,
It's going because all that
and all that surface area they're dragging on. I'm not saying that we may do a knife with bearings to cut costs, because doing fitting the bushings is very time consuming. But as a general rule, you have much better side to side stability and strength in a washer knife, and if it's done right, you can have a drop close knife with a washer knife with no play.
Solid contact point. Right against the washer.
So yeah, there's a lot to be said for old school.
Mm-hmm. I think bushing system with washers is superior overall. I've always thought that.
And this is like,
and any kind of knife, a flipper or a thumb stud, whatever.
Yep.
So as an adjunct to that, and this is going to be totally, but when did bearings start to really take hold? Was there a point where have they always been there? Like, did you see them coming and then you were like, I'm gonna stick with washers, or is it just
you know what, you can ask me that question, but I was not in this world to tell you.
I think
I
GTC had
was-
something to do with that, didn't he? Or I guess the IKBS.
The IKBS was the first one that
okay.
came out.
And then somebody
makes
came
sense.
along and
But
put a
people had
cage in
been
it.
playing with washers. I was playing with a magnetic washer or idea for a while there, where I was using neodymium magnets with reverse polarity to create a switchblade
Okay, now
or an assisted opening knife.
Mhm.
You know, using a magnetic force,
Oh.
opposing magnetic forces.
I actually want to get into this for a second because you're the second person who I've heard actually try this. Did you actually get to the prototyping stages? Because I've actually tried it and built a knife around magnets that I found. And it
Yeah, I
worked
did.
great.
I did prototype. I prototyped it out of aluminum.
Yeah, and it worked great until the moment any piece of anything gets in there.
Yeah, until you put it in your pocket and it's
It doesn't work. It grows hair.
Yeah, I tried this like 6 years ago, and like this is the greatest thing ever because I saw the Japanese trains work on magnetic rails, and that's how they go so fast because there's no friction.
Conceptually, it would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this is amazing, and like I tried it with just same thing, aluminum, made a bigger folder, worked with the magnets I found, and it was great and all for like the first day, and then it felt like crap. And then I saw the mud autos, well, before they were automatics, and I started thinking, what if you do that, blah blah. But you're the actual only other person who's had that idea, who's tried it. But I've been talking about that for a while.
That was back before the original Sparrowhawks. That was a long time ago.
That was probably 2008.
Because I
remember that it was at the shop after you had moved into the shop downtown, so I could go to.
I did that when I was still at home, when I was still in the house.
How'd you use? Because I found magnets with holes that were slightly bigger than the pivot hole, and I pretty much pressed them in there as if they were bearings.
I machined my own magnets, which is almost impossible to do because first of all, those neodymiums, when you start drilling them and putting an end mill through them, they catch on fire.
I thought they're nickel plated too, aren't they?
And they're nickel plated.
The nickel's fine.
Wow.
From my reading is if they oxidize, they don't work. So I would use them around what I found. So I designed something around magnets that I was able to find. But I always thought if they oxidize, they don't work.
No, I don't know anything about that. I actually created my own washers, but what I was doing, I was creating half moons and I was flipping them one way to the other because I wanted the knife to be able to open to a certain point and have the reverse polarization propel the knife away. Yeah, you got to remember, I was a switchblade maker, man. If it didn't do something, I wasn't going to build it. Yeah. You know, before I got into art knives, if it didn't switch, if it didn't click, if it didn't jump, I wasn't building it. I did not build regular folders.
Yeah, that was an interesting way to think about it because the magnet eventually get past a certain point, it'll just pull it into place.
Exactly. Well, I didn't want it to pull it. I wanted it to push it.
So you would release it, and then the polarity would puch the blade in?
It work. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. But so no go on anybody's part. It didn't work.
No, Bill's like the second person who's actually tried it, that I know who tried it besides having an idea. And like everyone always tried. Like I didn't get it to work. He didn't get it to work, and someone else in the knife making group, I don't remember which, that tried it too. And like you might get it to work for a moment, but anything that gets in there, it just stops working.
When I was still hanging out at Butch's shop, I went out to the SHOT Show and the Vegas show with Butch out in Vegas. We drove out there, and he wanted to go down to. We went down to Yuma, Arizona, and crossed the border into Mexico to get his pharmaceuticals for the year, and so I was there to help him drive and stuff. Yeah, I was a mule. To bring back pharmaceuticals. Okay. But we had a lot of hours.
We'll edit that part out.
We had a lot of hours in the car together, and he was kind of like challenging me to think of something new. Because, I mean, here I am riding in the car for 23 hours straight with Mr. Mechanism. Yeah. And every time I'd come up with something, he'd go, that's a really good idea. Blackie Collins did it back in 87, or Blackie Collins did it in here, or I did it then, or so-and-so did it. He's like, the greatest historian on switchblades. It's just amazing.
Yeah, Simpsons did it.
Yeah, that was done by the cavemen back around the La Brea tar pits back in, La Brea tar pits. back in 4000 BC, so So and that's where I got that idea, was on the road with him, and I was sketching things out and showing him. He's going, nah, that so and so did that. Every time I came up with something, he's going, you can come up with something. That's what it's all about. And you know what? It took me close to 15 years, but here I am, and I've got my own mechanism. So I thank him for pushing me and putting me in that mindset.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's an intense. I mean, getting there though, that counts. What's your relationship with Butch now?
I see Butch once in a while. I saw him most recently at the Eugene show. He's getting older. He has had some health issues, and I wish him well.
Yeah.
I hope things go well for him. But as we all get older,
Thinking about one thing, just sidetracking here, but like Elijah mentioned GTC and the bearings. The next time I see GTC, I want to ask him, because when I first started making knives, everyone who sold bearings, they were marketed as GTC bearings.
Yeah,
And
that's
you don't,
what
yeah, but you don't. I haven't seen them marketed as GTC bearings in years.
I
They're
think
just
So wait,
bearings.
I think GTC
before
actually did its own
IKBS,
kind.
before Akomakorth?
No,
From
this
what
was afterwards.
Yeah, from what I know,
IKBS.
IKBS came out first, and there was it's a pain. Like, I've built the IKBS knife. It's a pain in the ass, because the amount of times you put a knife together and build it as you make the knife, it's just like every time with tweezers and grease and magnets putting the fuckers together just to test fit it. And yeah, there's another way. Like, I learned how to do it from the South Africans, and they use a steel bushing and a washer, and as they build it. But I don't. Mine, I don't have that to work. I have to do it every time with the IKBS, and then I guess GTC.
Well, my suggestion is spend a little bit more time in making sure your frame is square, and making sure your parts are flat, and fit a proper washer, and I think you'll be much happier.
Flatness and parallelness. A little harder to do than just slapping a bearing in there.
Yeah, bearings, you can pretty much, doesn't matter if your backspacer is the right size or not. You have those bearings, you have it cranked down on those bearings, it's going to rotate in and out. And I think that's helped a lot of knife makers get on board. But I see the trend going back to washers now.
I didn't really think about it until Bill just said that, but that could be a good reason why we see like an influx of so many new makers, just because of the bearing system.
No, it's Instagram. The bearings were around forever, and every knife maker's like, oh, you could be 10th off. They'll still work, just won't be centered. But
That's fine.
Just
roll with it. Just roll with it.
Yeah,
Nick, no one was saying that was your story, but you don't need to be so defensive, buddy.
Oh no, I'm getting to what I say every fucking episode. And before the time of Instagram, where it was on forums.
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Before Instagram.
That it was just a direct correlation. The moment everything went to Instagram, everything just the market started melding with different industries, and guys that made a banjo started making a knife, whatever.
The funny thing is we were playing around with Matt Cook and I. We were playing around with pulling caged bearings out of hard drives on computers.
Yeah, well.
So it's not a new idea. It's
like a pre-made,
you tear apart some Western Digital hard drives from old 286s and 386s, and there's some usable bearings in those things, along with lots of good standoffs too.
So the Sparrowhawk has always been on bushings and washers.
Not always bushing, but washers, yeah.
But definitely washers.
Yep. The originals were just on washers. The reintroduction of the Sparrowhawk that we had at Blade Show 2 years ago, those were on bushings. And the new and the late and Generation 1, Gen 1, and Gen 2 are both on bushings. I've had trouble with suppliers getting things made to the precise parts that I wanted, to get the parts with the right precision that I've wanted. So I've actually gone out and I've made my own. So I even have some of the earlier knives from Gen 1. that are starting to come back. I get a phone call. Well, this is doing this, and it's like, yeah, send it back. I'm going to replace the bushing washer or the bushing and the pivots because they just weren't made precisely enough for what to make me happy. They still work,
Right.
But it's not to my standards.
I mean, especially when it comes to this, that's like, it's your name on the line. The standards have to be high, like incredibly high.
Everyone has to be happy. Everyone has to be happy, and that includes me.
Right. So just going back, stepping back a little bit. So Eric in his introduction to the shop, because I'm looking around and we're sitting in the shop right now, and there's actually two engraving stations. So I mean, you guys
on the neat side or the messy side? Left side.
Sort of on the neater side.
That's Eric. That's Eric's
It's neater.
Side,
It's all relative.
That's Eric's side.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, there's still a high level of art knifery going on around here. Like, I see projects you guys are working on that are not fucking Sparrowhawks.
We're still doing customs. We still, obviously, there's always going to be unfinished projects that we pulled out. This last button release that he's working on right now was started 4 years ago, I think, and was just pulled out of the drawer to finish.
Okay.
I was waiting for materials,
This whole new venture was with the new Sparrowhawks and increasing production, creating more of a business out of it, was more out of necessity to create more of a regular income.
Right.
But what we found is even through the production prototyping process and getting the production process down, working on everything that entails in building a business, going through doing the new website, advertising, content, constantly trying to improve and get communication on board. It's gotten to the point where we were making customs to support the business that was supposed to be supporting the customs. So it's all a process, and we're learning as we go. We've never done anything beyond just doing the one-of-a-kind knives, really. So this has just been a whole new world that we've kind of dived into.
My happy place would be to have the semi-customs doing well enough to support the shop and support our very basic lifestyle. Because anyone who knows us knows we aren't extravagant people. We just live as we can live. But what I'd really like to do is to be able to support the art. I'd love to be able to go back to making art knives and not worrying about how many hundreds of hours I put into one piece, and finally chase it and find that vision that I have in my mind's eye that I can actually chase and find and create.
And not having that voice in the back of your head
saying you got to finish it because we need to pay rent. You're spending
too much time, and you got a bill coming up. You got to pay rent, man. Like, you should probably finish this up.
So I mean, Eric, you've been in a great position this whole time. I mean, you've got this figure in your life who's this amazing knife maker, and then you've been in the shop with him working on this stuff, and that sort of has certainly come to a head sort of recently within the last couple of years as well. But I mean, you have your own designs, and you actually just sold a piece like about a month ago of completely your own.
Just last week.
Last week.
You're talking about the Hawkbill model.
Exactly.
The Reaper,
Yep.
So I've made 2 of those now, and those are just 100% handmade knives. The first one took way too much time. I told myself to keep it simple and ended up using high carbon Damascus steel, and a month on that knife. And and the next one took probably a week and a half at least, which was a much simpler model, no carving and basic scales, burgundy linen micarta, but still a very, very nice, cool knife with multiple finishes that really gave you a feel and a depth to it.
What's the name of that model?
I've been calling
up
it
a
the
name really
Reaper.
quick.
I'm not 100% sure. That's always been the hardest part for me, is coming up with a name. And I know you, Elijah, will start with the name sometimes, and I did that with the Chantrell knife. But other than that, it's always just been seeing a line that I like and going after that.
Yeah, I've
But
seen Elijah's computer. He says he's got all these designs on the computer. You know what he actually has? He has a text list in Word of all the different names of the knives that he's going
the
to
names he's come up with.
Those are
See
his
something? I'll
designs.
pull it up right now.
That's your inspiration. That's great.
He
So, I
just
mean,
makes the
so-
names. The designs are just there.
So I came into the shop and you know, it was either the option to make my own knives and build my name, but since you know, my dad was already established and I was learning, I wasn't quite there. I was taking it seriously as an apprenticeship to really learn the craft and the art of it. So I never really started producing my own models to I don't know, come out of the shadow of my dad. It's always been just contributing to the business and building together and learning as much as I can along the way. But now it's been nice to. I've just got a head full of designs now that I want to start producing myself, and
it
yeah,
goes back to
that's
this
what
is
it's
a
all
family
about.
business. This is Tuch Knives. This isn't Bill Tuch Knives. This isn't Eric. This is Tuch Knives. This is a family business.
Yeah, and then after 5-6 years now of being in the shop, I've really developed this passion for knife making. Yeah, I want to make my own, so I'll be obviously producing my own also. We're both going to be doing our own customs as well as this new line of knives and just making it all work simultaneously as much as we can.
You know, which is so awesome because I've had this conversation with Matt before, and I know I've sort of talked to you and Bill about it, but so I'm pretty sure if I'm doing my math right that you would be, and you know, with all due respect, terminology-wise, you would have been the youngest apprentice to be brought into the dual action knife bolt. I don't believe that there's anybody else doing it
that really has any sort of knowledge. Yeah, that's.
I mean, the Valtons do have they're working on stuff, but that's
how
a
old is
pre-existing.
Kyle and Corey?
Kyle's
probably early 30s.
Yeah, he's in his 30s. But I mean, again, that's a lineage thing. But I mean, you would have been the first person to really have been, you know, a huge mechanical understanding of what you're dealing with. That's not. It's born out of the Valtons, but it's Bill's mechanism. You know what I'm saying? Like it's you're certainly. Nobody else knows it. You know, it really is a dying art form. You know, if I haven't said that before on the cast.
It's an incredible opportunity to be a part of this and to be able to have knowledge passed down to me.
All right, now, so you're doing this. Are you gonna do like an auto version of the Reaper or dual action version of the Reaper? Do you plan on using the mechanism in your future work?
Yeah, definitely.
He's actually designed the knife with that mechanism involved.
I used the same geometry in mind to be able to do that in the future. I'm not sure when I'll actually get around. I also have an idea for an opening mechanism of my own. So there's all sorts of ideas and things that I'd like to pursue, but it's all going to be a process.
Right.
Just got to enjoy the journey as it happens.
And that's pretty legit. I mean, that's more than your average. And again, everybody out there like garage style knife maker. I mean, that's, you know, you were in a good position to get to where you are now quicker with a huge amount of precise tips, we'll say.
Pros and cons.
You
know,
family is terrible. Don't ever do it.
It's amen.
So what's next for? I mean, you guys. So we're, like I said, we're sitting in the shop. I see lots of art aspects. I see technical aspects. I see you guys working on Sparrowhawks. I see your own designs. Where are we in? You know, where are we in a year? Where are we in 2 years? I see you guys revived the God Switchblade shirt, which is totally awesome. If you guys don't have that, you need to get one. We'll work on that. But where are we going? Where are we headed with this? What's the next move for you guys?
I see. Well, it's all, like I said, it's all going to be a process. We can only move as fast as things turn over. Right now, we're in the middle of well, not middle. We're a little bit past way of producing the first or the second batch of these Sparrowhawks.
Okay.
At this point, we've pretty much gotten the process down to the baseline of where we're going to be able to get the lowest price for this model. And from here, we'll be able to incorporate different blade materials, different handle materials for the one-off customs that we've had a lot of requests for that we just haven't been ready for. And we'll also be, we've had a high demand for maybe a 3/4-inch model. The full-size model, everybody seems to want a different size. You can't please everyone. Different variations of the model, different designs. I'd like to just grow that as much as we can, but it's going to be gradual as as things go in and out, and we're creating the customs at the same time. It's all going to be having to happen simultaneously. It's not. I would love to have a bankroll right now to fund this new venture, but it's not going to happen overnight.
No, we're going to be growing very organically.
Yeah, organically, that's a great word for it.
Okay. Yeah, it's not something that is going to happen overnight. Hopefully we'll look back at it and say, hey, it happened overnight. But we want to grow, do it right. Mm-hmm. We don't want to say, hey, yeah, great, we just had an influx of money here. We're just going to go slam it all in and put the cart before the horse. We want to make sure that all of our P's and Q's are I's and T's are crossed and dotted. Yeah, hey, I'm big on all that.
Lowercase J's.
Yeah, that's
it.
Lots
of those.
Class J. Yeah. But
I see this growing. For as long, there's no real way to know exactly where we'll be in a year. Right. But from a year ago today to now,
been a huge growth.
I would say the same thing. There's no way I could picture exactly where we're at right now. The growth that we've made, the things that we've gone through, the fucking sacrifices we've made. It's been really,
especially last year. Last year was a rough year, man.
It's been a process to say the least. If you don't get something done, nothing got done. You're not going to make any money, and you're not going to pay rent. So you got to keep on going, no matter what's happening. Even if you have your gallbladder out and shingles a few months after that.
Just as a
random example out there.
Yeah.
It's easy to survive self-employed, when you lose a third of your work year. Man, I'm telling you. I tell you what, if I didn't have Eric, I probably wouldn't be here. My shop would be gone, and I'd be on the street.
As far as we're at right now, the last few years of getting into this new shop location, I don't think people really realize what the type of lifestyle that my dad and I actually lead. We found a warehouse space, the second floor of a warehouse building that was dilapidated. We had a hole through the roof, through the ceiling, no walls. We framed in all the walls, tiled in a shower, put in a kitchen. And made this into a live-work spot where we had a 2-bedroom apartment on one side and the shop on the other. We've got about a 1,200 square foot space for the shop. And I lasted about a year before I moved out and found my own place down the street. But this is the life we live. We wake up, we go to the shop, we make knives.
Fucking commute is killing me.
Go home, eat, sleep, eat. Yeah, his 12-step commute and my mile commute. I don't even have to go through a light. It's pretty awful, but
it really we're sitting in the shop, and it really is like I'm looking at the door to the apartment, and the apartment and the shop are basically it's separated by a very, very small amount. So I mean, we're talking about if someone was grinding in here, you'd be hearing it if you were in the living room watching TV. It's nice. It's nice for working all the time.
It's an awesome space, and it's ideal. It's exactly what we really had in mind.
Right.
That's what we do. We're knife makers.
Knife makers. If you're not a workaholic, you're not really doing it right. I think is that.
That's
the plan.
If
you don't work, if you aren't in the shop all the time, that means you have another job.
Yeah.
That's
what's a 9 to 5?
I don't know. It's the time it takes to get to lunch.
7-11.
Yeah, right. That's great. I mean, yeah, you gotta be about it. It's a lifestyle choice, and people really people really have no concept. When I certainly I can tell you, I talk to customers all the time. People really don't understand just how much time it takes, and if I have an equation that I like to like break down for people, and they're like, oh, I could do that. That's easy. It's like, oh, cool. Like, definitely rock on and do it because there's a community here to support you, and they'll be happy to teach you when you fall. But I mean, there's no way to ever pay back 1,000,000 hours and decades of your life into a craft like this. Even if you sold a knife for 20 grand once every 6 months, like years do, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not, you'll never get that time back. There's no way you get paid back for it. So you really have to be in with it or completely insane in order to be able to do this, because it's not
rational.
Right.
It's totally completely illogical to live the lifestyle that we do. And that's what it is, though.
It's a bohemian lifestyle.
It really makes.
You have to have the passion for it.
The most popular response I get when someone who doesn't know what the community is like, you make knives that are $1,000, you must make a lot of money. And they'll ask they go, what are my costs into a knife? They go, about $100. You're making $900 a knife. That's insane. I'm like, yeah, but when you break down the math, what do you work for? Like, about $20 an hour. Would you like to make more money? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, cool.
I'd love to make $20 an hour. Can we do that?
Yeah. I'm like,
funny thing.
Cool. Sometimes
the funny thing is, Nick, you look at these people and you say, hey, last time you took your car into the dealership to get work done, what do they charge you an hour? And they say, oh, somewhere between $90 and $110 an hour. Yeah. It's great. If I sold my knives for $90, each knife would be $6,000.
Yeah.
Well, then break it down again. I'm like, sometimes I make
starting.
No, then break it down. I'm like, sometimes I could make $90 an hour, but NCC Knives makes $90 an hour. Nick Trooper still made $10 an hour. It doesn't matter what the company makes. There's also the amount you take home and the amount the company takes. That's what a lot of people don't realize, because they get a paycheck. They don't run the business. That's a whole different factor. It starts then you start breaking down expenses, costs. Rent.
This doesn't hold water. You cannot not pay your dad.
Oh,
gotta pay him.
Yeah, you cannot not pay your son.
Oh no, sons are okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
It's different.
It's all right.
It's different.
It goes down. I got shop bills. I got pay my dad, the employee for rate. I got expenses. I got all the stuff. My toll bill just to get to my shop every month's $350 a month. And so guys find that insane.
Your what bill? Your toll bill?
Yeah, I cross America's most expensive bridge every day. It's $19 cash.
Out to Staten Island?
Yeah, man.
Staten Island.
That's what I'm saying. You guys were talking about your commute.
No shit.
It is.
You guys were talking about your commute of living at the shop.
It's rough, man. It's a rough life we live.
The funny part is, I live at my shop, but I still have to pay my toll because my dad takes the car now. So it's like, I used to live at the shop not to pay the toll and not to drive back and forth because it's a 30-minute drive. And now I still live here and I still have to pay the toll because he uses my car.
still pays the toll.
Yeah.
Well, you have a full-time employee now, and that's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah, what's up, Bill?
Can we talk about strip clubs now?
Oh boy. So let me just preface that topic with how great the shop Rottweiler is. Samson. If you've never had the pleasure to meet him, he's probably the best tempered Rottweiler I've certainly ever run across.
He has been deemed the world's best Rottweiler.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna definitely say yes.
When Matt Diskin tells you your Rottweiler is the world's best Rottweiler, you better believe it.
Yeah, like that shit is real, dude. Like that is what's in the pipe. What's the next show? Do you guys have any collaborations you're working on that we can look forward to with any makers that we already aware of?
Yeah, so we've got the gathering coming up at the end of August. We'll have a handful of Sparrowhawks, so we'll probably be lottoing off. And we also have a collaboration with Eric Cox, that a really cool recurve flipper that we'll have a couple available. We'll see. We have Dr. Death possibly in the works with Tom. He's supposed to be grinding the blade and fitting the lock and whatnot, and sending back to have the handle done here.
Pretty legit.
So I'll do some crazy, out of the ordinary, nobody's seen the Dr. Death like it type of handle on it. Sounds like Elijah and I are going to be doing a collaboration.
That should be pretty
Gonna have
epic.
to design something up and pretty much have Eric make the entire thing himself because I'm not a knife maker. But yeah, design collab.
You good short
Wait a
design
second.
screws.
Wait a second, Elijah, I thought you were coming into the shop and going to build a knife for yourself.
That's
yeah,
gonna
we'll
happen.
get you grinding blades, man.
Yeah, man. You still have
Well-
10 fingers.
I know I got 10 of them right
Work
at
on
the
it,
ready.
man.
We
We'll
gotta
just
work
see how
on it.
far you make
Yeah,
it, so
you-
I have to come in and fix.
You're not a maker until the bandsaw takes your fingertip. It's pretty much the rules.
His hands are so soft, though. There's some.
That's part of the design collab is also being like shop bitch for a week. Is that correct? Is that how that was? That how that
Bandsaw
works?
bitch, yeah.
Bandsaw
Bandsaw
bitch.
bitch. Yeah,
Okay,
bandsaw bitch.
cool. All right.
Other than that, yeah, we're just gonna be moving forward and continue to produce these Sparrowhawks. It sounds like everybody that gets the hold of one either wants one or two.
Yeah.
So as long as we're moving in the right direction, we're just gonna keep on making, keep going as long as we can.
There you go. So now, what shows do you guys regular? Where can people see you guys?
The Gathering, this is our second year with the table there. We've got Blade West after that. That is the second year show also. But since it's here in Portland, they seem to be doing a really good job with it. Anyone that's on the wall with coming to Blade West, definitely put that on your agenda this winter to come out to Portland and have a blast with us.
That was a lot of fun last year, and the weather was like perfect. It was just at the end of the fall. It was like a little bit wet, but not cold.
It's Portland weather, yeah. It's Portland.
Hey, it could be like last year. Come to the shop and see if you can hide your beer cans and beer bottles where I won't find them for 2 months.
Yeah, see? There you go. If it was an IPA, it might last longer. Yeah.
And then of course we've got a Blade show that this year we moved to a booth, which was a transition year to say the least. Everyone's kind of, I think, used to seeing us in the guild section, the tables, and in the booth section, we're surrounded by all the different production companies that have knives in the $50 to $300 or $400 range, however much. And when you come by our booth and we're asking for $1,200 for a knife that maybe doesn't look that complicated, since there's no button or fancy milling on it, so it's still a handmade knife, and it's been a transition.
Right on.
But we will be back there next year. New models, new sizes, new materials, as much as we can do.
Sounds pretty killer. All right, so definitely a couple pretty awesome collaborations coming up. Tom Mayo and Eric Ox. That's and obviously Elijah. But as far as makers go, that's pretty legit. And you're gonna continue to do your customs. Will you be bringing a Reaper to USN or Blade West?
I think I will. Yeah, I'm gonna. We've got a handful of Sparrowhawks already finished or in the final stages of tuning.
I expect
so
to have.
I'll be ready to go.
I expect to have a couple of very special Sparrowhawks there.
Okay.
Yeah, we also have
for those who want them.
Parts for some black tie scales. Not sure on blade material if we'll branch off from the plain steel.
You guys, you can send me your opinion, but I'm thinking stay with the plain steel because it seems people want to carry these things and use them. So,
yeah.
I don't see any reason to go off to Damascus blade.
Since we have a number of these knives ready to go, then I feel like I have the next month or so to really work on a special piece to bring and show what I can do.
Yeah, there you go. Should be pretty legit.
Definitely.
That should be good.
Yeah, so time for the Eric Ox collaboration. I got the blade ground a couple days ago. Got that sitting there. He's going to be grinding one of the blades, and then I'll do the handle for the one he grinds, and vice versa.
Because that ox flipper is like you ground that.
Yeah,
and it's fucking like insanely legit. Like the plunge line is on point. It's thin as hell. Like that's.
Oh,
That's
Eric
pretty
Eric is a grinding machine. Eric can grind amazing grinds with the sweeping, It's like I taught him, and I must have forgotten because. But
the apprentice is eclipsing the master. Maybe
being used by
it's being used by the master.
Different strengths.
Yeah,
Different strengths. They work together. We're
Right,
a team.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So we'll have time for that. Hopefully Tom will get that blade ground and sent back to us, and I'll have time for that, and to have a third piece, full custom with 100+ hours in it. I think that would be really cool to really show what I can do.
That's legit. Okay, so USN is actually that's USN Blade West. You guys have probably a pretty heavy loadout.
Yeah, we have
Pretty solid,
several,
yeah.
we have several we have several customs that we're in the process of finishing and getting started at the same time. So it's gonna be a very busy year for us, and we want to get a couple more models started on the semi customs. And
It's all just a process of ins and outs, and being able to support the process.
Hopefully I'll have a month this winter I can go out to Florida and spend with Stan and get out of the weather and maybe build a couple of knives out there with him.
Stan
we'll
Wilson,
see.
that is.
Yeah, Stan Wilson.
Stan's actually me from the future, if anybody wanted to know.
If anybody was wondering, that's Elijah's future.
Stan, don't
past?
worry, I'll punch him later.
I'll punch. Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm sure Stan totally listens to Bladeology. Absolutely.
Every episode.
Every episode.
Religiously.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you guys are you're rocking out the collaborations. You got shows coming up. I mean, this is
We're doing as much as we can. We're making it happen.
That's legit. That's legit.
Every day in the shop.
So Bill, you're working on this push button right now too. Like we were in the shop today.
Yep.
Is this available? Are you bringing this to the show? Undecided.
Undecided.
Okay.
Undecided whether I'm going to offer it up before the show or take it to the show. Really, I don't like to plan things like that. When I'm doing something that because it's a carved piece, it's a lot of fun for me. It's not being built for anyone. If anyone really falls in love with it, they fall in love with it. Otherwise, they'll come to the show with me, and someone will fall in love with it there. And it's a work in progress. I may have to put it to the side because I have some very important builds I'm also working on at the same time. So it's been a 4-year project to this point. It might be another, it might be another year down the line before it's finished, unless I have a reason to finish it.
Let's get this finished up, huh?
Yeah,
let's get this one.
Hey, I like having it a little bit unfinished.
If it was that ready, I'd want to.
Yeah, no, it'll be done. It'll be done by Tuesday.
I'll
post some pictures up.
It's close. Carving's done. It's the scale's got to be cheated and refinished and colored, and then we can get it together.
All right. I like it.
I might do an Instagram auction with it. I might take it to the USN show for an auction piece. I might give it to someone because they love it. Who knows?
I love it.
You haven't.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. You haven't even seen it in person. It's super.
I don't know what you're
badass.
talking about.
You don't count, Nick.
Just remember, the lottery is a chance to purchase it. It's not free.
Are you referring to my lotto? Are you referring to my lotto from the other day?
I'm referring to my lotto at Blade West.
Oh no, dude! I lotto a knife 2 days ago, and the winner thought it was a giveaway, so I had to redo it.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's
that happened to us at Blade West. Yeah.
It happens at every show. I had to happen at Blade show as well. Oh wait, no, never mind.
But it happens. It's the shows are really not about selling knives to me, because we all know we can sit back and we can be on Facebook, we can be on Instagram, we can make phone calls to collectors. We could sell what we need to sell without going to shows. But you know what, we never get to just hang out with people without going to show. And by the way, hey, I'm really happy that Eric and I decided to go over to the Hand-Built here in town and hang out with everyone there.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Jake put on a great show. There's a great spread of food, and everyone was just just so friendly and so happening. It was, I mean, truly, it's only the second knife show I've ever attended where I wasn't on the other side of the table. It was kind of fun.
You got a chance to relax and just kind of
get a chance to relax and actually speak to people and just hang out and look at other makers' work and actually meet other makers, because you'd be surprised how many of us makers don't know each other because we're setting up at our booths and we're working the entire
just
show.
Passing by for years.
We just pass by
years
for
and very
years
familiar
and
with
we
each
don't
other's
know
work and just never
That's a good point.
never have that chance.
It's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was cool to that's Elijah and I are definitely in Portland for the Northwest Hand-built Invitational. So it's the second year, and it was awesome to have you guys come out. We all got to hang at the show, make the rounds, see everybody. Definitely some schmoozing. But that opportunities like that, like knife shows, are so important because, like in this case, you guys had never, or it's very rare that you get to go to a show and not set up. But I mean, what's important about that is collaborations are born out of that. Connections are born out of that. I mean, it's so valuable to have knife shows. So anybody out there who's ever second guessing going to a knife show, small, large, in the community, outside of the community, do it. Get to a knife show, get to a show, talk with people. It's so important. It's such a forgotten aspect of our community because of Instagram. Don't let the internet spoil a good thing.
Everybody's texting. No one even picks up a phone and makes a phone call anymore.
Right.
To meet someone is so different.
Go to a knife show.
Yeah, I did call you yesterday. Have you ever called me? No.
Hey, you.
Most of the time I don't call you because I don't want to interrupt you. You might be in the middle.
He called me. I was driving. I'm like, hey, Bill.
He pointed the phone at his crotch.
Video.
At his crotch.
Hey, I pointed it where you wanted to see. Okay.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Get to knife shows, no matter what. That's the point.
Get to knife shows. It's a lot of fun.
Show.
Yeah.
There's a lot of goofy energy. There's a lot of there's guys who work their asses off and they're hermits 90% of their lives, and they just need someone to expunge and to speak to and to actually interact with and socialize with until they go back home and go back into their hole. And
whatever they're bringing.
It's grim, but it's true.
I'm not lying. I'm not
When you're
lying.
spending
Knife making is a very solitary. It's very solitary art.
Hey,
So was knife designing.
I have no windows in my shop. I don't know if it's night or day. It just time just
all
goes
I-
by.
It's
Hey,
nice that
hey,
we still have windows.
You've been in my shop. You've been in my shop. All I can say is that sucks for you.
Yeah, it's like when I worked the long shifts, it's like I don't know what the hell what time it is. It just goes by.
Oh, I know. This is the first shop I've had with windows.
Even in the warehouse working, there's never windows. Like where I am now,
Yeah,
there's no window.
you work in the back.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no.
There's no. I don't see the light of day.
You at least have that camera that points at the front where there is a window.
Oh, that's just like the real thing, Nick. I can feel the heat of the sun through the goddamn camera. Wow, good point, my dude.
You could at least check if the sun is up or down. You could at least check if the sun's up or down.
Yeah, and on that note.
All right, and on that anecdote, if there's anything else we haven't covered that y'all want to go over, now would be the time to do it. Anybody?
I'd say just keep a lookout for our new website. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We're going to be getting more and more content up. YouTube. That's going to be the next goal is to bring you guys into the shop with us as much as possible.
That's exciting.
And show you guys the process.
All right. Yeah, getting in on YouTube.
Yeah, follow along with our growth of this company. This is a whole new venture this year, and the last 6 months to a year has been just I wish I had it recorded, really. But from here on out, that is the goal, is to be able to give you guys a real inside look to what it takes to produce these knives.
Very cool. All right. Well, I know I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure pretty much everybody is, because nobody gets to see that unless you're us and you're just always pestering people in their shop and drinking beer and recording a podcast. On that note,
can I get an Eric?
Where can we find you on Instagram? What?
Can I get an Eric POV cam?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what you're going to see on YouTube.
From which direction are you looking for?
Okay. All right.
Anyways, find us on Instagram, Tuch Knives, TUCH. And you can also find my separate account, eric.tuch, ERIC. Instagram, touchknives.com, Tuch TV on YouTube. Follow along. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Awesome. Well, you guys, it's been awesome having you on. You know, as always, we try to do these things pretty regularly, but hopefully in the future, we'll do the shorter What's in the Shop episodes. We'll call you up and hopefully you can jump on with us, give us a little idea what you're working on. Otherwise, I guess we'll see you at the gathering.
Yeah, man.
This is the next one, which should be pretty exciting. On that note, I'll sign off. So, Jeremiah Burbank, it's been a pleasure, as always. My day job is PVK Vegas. Personal Instagram is PVKJair.
Nick.
Nikolai.
God, just
I thought my mic was
Next.
off.
come on.
Okay,
On
that note, I thought the mic was muted. Okay, on that note, Nick Trooper now. You can find me at NCC Knives on Instagram, nccknives.com, or nccknives@yahoo.com.
And this is Elijah Isham. You can find me at Isham Bladeworks on Instagram. And there was a fish in the percolator on Instagram, also known as Hamish Malays. Good night, everybody. This has been Cletus Cricket and the Tricky Critters.